I never expected to walk into my own home and feel like a stranger. The moment I stepped through the door that evening, I felt it, something was off. The house smelled different, a faint mix of expensive cologne and sweat, and there was a half-empty wine glass on the counter. Not mine. I wasn't supposed to be home early. My boss had let me go after a last-minute meeting was cancelled. I parked down the street, wanting to surprise my wife, Jessica. I thought I'd walk in, find her watching one of those reality shows she loved, and we'd order takeout. Instead, I walked into my own personal nightmare. As I climbed the stairs, I heard it. Moans. Hers. Loud. Too loud. My stomach turned to stone. The door to our bedroom, was cracked open, and I caught a glimpse of bare skin, tangled sheets, and a man's back. A stranger in my bed. Rage surged through me like fire. My fingers clenched into fists, but my body wouldn't move. I stood there, frozen, listening to Jessica's breathless whispers. "Oh, God, you're so much better than my husband." My vision blurred. My jaw tightened so hard I thought my teeth would snap. I wanted to rip the door open and throw the bastard out the window, but something held me back. Maybe it was the sheer shock of it all. Maybe it was the realization that the woman I had loved, the woman I built a life with, was a lying, cheating disgrace. I took a deep breath, stepped back, and reached for my phone. I hit record. If she wanted to destroy our marriage, I'd make damn sure she didn't get to play the victim. Minutes passed, or maybe just seconds. I didn't know. All I knew was that I had seen enough. I wasn't about to stand there like a fool while my wife gave herself to another man. I kicked the door open. Jessica screamed, scrambling to cover herself, while the man, some muscled, tan idiot with a shaved head, jumped out of bed, fumbling for his clothes. "What the F, Ethan? What are you doing home?" Jessica shrieked, her voice dripping with fake shock, as if I was the one in the wrong. I ignored her and locked eyes with the other man. He had the audacity to look guilty. "Who the hell are you?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. He stuttered. I didn't know she was married." Jessica shot up, wrapping the sheets around herself, her eyes darting between us. "Ethan, it's not what it looks like." I laughed. A deep, bitter laugh. "Really? Because it looks like you're sleeping with another man in our bed." She shook her head frantically, stepping forward as if she could undo what had already been done. No, please, let me explain." I raised my phone, still recording. "Explain?" "Sure. Let's hear it. Tell me why you moaned about how much better he is than me." Her face went pale. She knew she was screwed. The other man, who had managed to pull his pants halfway up, grabbed his shoes and bolted out the door without another word. Smart move. If he had stayed another second, I might have broken his face. Jessica, however, wasn't as smart. She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Give me that," she screeched. "You don't get to make demands," I snapped. "You've been caught, Jess. There's no talking your way out of this." Her face twisted with fury. "So what? You're not perfect either." I laughed again, shaking my head. "You're unbelievable." She crossed her arms, her anger overtaking whatever shame she might have felt. "Well, what are you gonna do about it?" I stared at her, a woman I no longer recognized. The betrayal burned deep, but beneath the anger was something even worse, relief. Because now, I had no doubts. The woman I had loved was a fraud, and I was finally free to do what needed to be done. I turned toward the door. "Ethan, wait," she called. I didn't. As I walked out of the room, one thing was certain, I was done with Jessica. She just didn't know it yet. I walked out, but I didn't leave. Not yet. My heart pounded like a war drum, but my mind was ice cold. I had spent years loving this woman, building a life with her, believing in her. And for what? So she could roll around in my bed with some random guy and then act like I was the problem? Jessica came storming out after me, wrapped in the sheet like she had any dignity left. "Ethan, you're being dramatic. We need to talk about this." I turned around so fast she flinched. "Talk? Talk about what, Jess? The way you threw our marriage away for some low-rent gigolo?" Her eyes flashed with anger. "Don't be so ****ing self-righteous. You're never home. You're always working. What did you expect me to do?" I almost laughed. "Oh, so it's my fault you decided to act like a backstabbing ******. You're unbelievable." She rolled her eyes, completely unfazed. Like she had expected me to accept this, to be hurt but ultimately forgive her. "You don't understand, Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "It wasn't serious. It was just... I don't know. A mistake." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "A mistake is buying the wrong brand of coffee. What you did? That was a choice. 100 little choices, over and over again. And I am done." I turned and walked down the stairs. She ran after me, grabbing my arm. I yanked it away like her touch burned. "Don't walk away from me," she snapped. The absolute nerve. I spun around. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. You lost that right the moment you spread your legs for another man." Her lips pressed together in a thin line. "Fine. If you want to throw everything away because of one stupid mistake, then go. But don't come crying to me when you realize you can't live without me." I stared at her, really stared. The woman I had married wasn't in there anymore. Maybe she had never been. I smiled. "Oh, don't worry, Jess. The only thing I'll regret is not seeing through your bull's ***T sooner." I grabbed my car keys and left, slamming the door behind me. The moment I got outside, I let out a long breath. The rage was still there, but under it was something stronger, clarity. I wasn't going to let her make excuses. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into believing I had done something to deserve this. I was going to destroy her. That night, I didn't sleep. I packed a bag, booked a hotel, and started making calls. My best friend, Ryan, picked up on the first ring. "Dude, it's midnight," he groaned. "I caught Jessica cheating." Silence. "Then, I'll be there in 10. He showed up at my hotel room with beer and a look in his eyes that said he was ready to commit several felonies on my behalf. I told him everything. The recording, the confrontation, the way she tried to turn it around on me. "Jesus Christ," Ryan muttered. "I never liked that **********. I chuckled, taking a sip of beer. "Yeah, well, I wish I figured that out before putting a ring on her finger." "What's next?" he asked. "Divorce. But I'm not letting her walk away clean. She's going to regret every damn second of this." I spent the next week planning. Jessica tried to call, text, even showed up at my office once, but I ignored her. She wasn't my problem anymore. The bomb dropped when she got served the divorce papers. She called me 30 times in a row. When I finally picked up, she was screaming. "Are you ******ing serious, Ethan?" "As a heart attack," I said, calm as ever. "You're really going to divorce me over one mistake?" I smirked. "No, Jess. I'm divorcing you because you're a lying, cheating, manipulative excuse for a human being. Enjoy your new life." I hung up. I should have known she wouldn't let me go that easily. Because 2 months later, she showed up at my door. With 2 kids. crying. I almost slammed it in her face, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked, arms crossed. She sniffled. "He left me." I raised an eyebrow. "Who?" She swallowed hard. "Tyler. The guy from that night." I laughed. I couldn't help it. She flinched. "Ethan, please. I have nowhere to go. I made a mistake." I held up a hand. "Let me stop you right there. Because whatever bull excuse you're about to give me, I don't care." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Ethan, please. One of these kids is yours." I froze. My stomach turned to ice. She looked at me with big, desperate eyes, like she actually believed I would fall for it. Then I laughed again. Long, deep, and cruel. "Nice try," I said. "But I got a paternity test 2 years ago. I knew you were screwing around before you even got pregnant." Her face drained of color. I stepped forward, lowering my voice. "Get the off my porch, Jessica. Crawl back to whatever hole you belong in." She opened her mouth, but I slammed the door in her face. I watched through the peephole as she stood there, shaking, before finally picking up her bags and walking away. For the first time in months, I felt free. And damn, it felt good that I thought that was the end of it. I thought she would disappear like the bad memory she was, but Jessica was like a cockroach. You could crush her, burn her, drown her, and she'd still crawl back. A week after I slammed the door in her face, she showed up at my office. My receptionist buzzed me. Ethan? Your wife is here." "Ex-wife," I corrected. "Tell her to leave." She said it's an emergency. I sighed. It was probably some new sob story, some last-ditch attempt to guilt me. But something inside me was curious. What new level of low was she about to hit? I walked out to the lobby, and there she was. Same fake tears. Same desperation in her eyes. But there was something else this time. Fear. "We need to talk," she whispered. "No, we don't." She grabbed my arm. "Please. It's about Tyler." I narrowed my eyes. "The guy who kicked you out? What, he wants you back?" She swallowed hard. "He's dead." For the first time since this mess started, I was speechless. She looked around, as if someone was watching her. "Ethan, he was involved in bad things. I didn't know. I swear. And now, I think someone's after me." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "You have got to be kidding me." She shook her head frantically. "I'm serious. He owed money, a lot of money. And now they think I have it. They've been following me, Ethan. Watching me." I crossed my arms. "And that's my problem because..." Her face crumpled. "Because I have nowhere else to go." I should have walked away. I should have let her deal with whatever mess she got herself into. But a tiny part of me, the part that used to love her, the part that wasn't completely dead yet, hesitated. That hesitation cost me. The next morning, someone broke into my house. I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. My heart slammed against my ribs as I grabbed the baseball bat under my bed. I crept down the hallway, every muscle in my body tight. I found him in my living room. A man, dressed in black, going through my drawers. I didn't think. I swung the bat. Hard. The crack of wood against his ribs sent him stumbling. He gasped, clutching his side, then bolted for the door. I chased after him, but by the time I got outside, he was gone. My hands were shaking. My breath came fast. This wasn't a robbery. This was a warning. And I knew exactly who sent it. The next day, Jessica called me. I let it go to voicemail. Ethan, please. Please pick up. They think I have the money, but I don't. I swear I don't. I don't know what to do. Please. I clenched my jaw. I should have blocked her. I should have ignored it. But instead, I made one mistake. I called her back. The moment she picked up, she burst into tears. Ethan, oh my God, thank you. Cut the crap, I snapped. Tell me everything. Now. She sniffled. I don't know much. Tyler was acting weird before he died. Jumpy. He kept talking about some deal that went bad. Then, one day, he just never came home. I gritted my teeth. And now they think you know where the money is? Yes, she whispered. I ran a hand down my face. And why would they think that, Jess? What exactly did you do? She hesitated. I sighed. Jesus Christ. They're watching me, Ethan, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I think they're watching you too. A chill ran down my spine. I ended the call. I should have let her rot. I should have told her to go to hell. But now? Now, I was involved. And there was no getting out. I barely slept that night. Every sound, every shadow outside my window, made my pulse jump. I wasn't some paranoid idiot, I knew someone had been in my house. And now, thanks to Jessica, I had a bunch of dangerous people thinking I was sitting on a pile of their stolen money. I needed answers. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called the one person who knew how to handle situations like this, Ryan's cousin, Mike. Mike wasn't a law-abiding citizen. He wasn't the type of guy you called if you wanted legal advice. But if you needed to know who was after you, why they were after you, and how to make them disappear. He was your guy. Who did you piss off? Mike asked as soon as I walked into his garage, the scent of motor oil thick in the air. I exhaled. Not me. Jessica. Mike smirked. Figures. That woman always had trouble written all over her. I filled him in on everything, Tyler, the break-in, the calls. He listened, nodding occasionally, then disappeared into the back for a few minutes. When he came back, he had a name. Darren Cole. I frowned. Who? Mike leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Ex-con. Loan shark. Runs money through half the clubs in the city. If Tyler owed him, it wasn't small. And if he thinks Jessica has his cash, he won't stop coming. I felt my jaw tighten. How much are we talking? Mike's lips curled into a humorless grin. $500,000. My stomach dropped. Jessica had really done it this time. I left Mike's place with a sinking feeling in my gut. I wasn't some streetwise thug. I was just a guy trying to move on with his life. But now, because of her, I was in the crosshairs of a man who wouldn't hesitate to bury me if he thought I was in the way. I needed to see her. I called Jessica, told her to meet me at a diner across town. Neutral ground. If someone was following us, I wasn't letting them anywhere near my house again. She showed up looking like hell, hair a mess, dark circles under her eyes. She slid into the booth, clutching her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her together. You talked to someone, didn't you? She whispered. I nodded. Darren Cole. She swallowed hard. He's going to kill me, Ethan. I sat back, watching her. You knew Tyler was mixed up in this. Don't even try to lie. She hesitated. Then, I didn't think it was this bad. I exhaled slowly. Where's the money, Jessica? Her eyes widened. I don't have it. I slammed my hand against the table, making her jump. Bullshit. He thinks you do. Either you're lying, or you're too stupid to realize Tyler left something behind. Tears welled up in her eyes. Ethan, I swear to God, I have nothing. I've looked everywhere. I ran a hand down my face. This was getting worse by the second. Then I noticed it. The way her fingers gripped the coffee cup, tight, like she was hiding something. And suddenly, it clicked. You already know where it is. She shook her head. No, I don't. Jessica. My voice dropped, low and dangerous. Do not lie to me again. She chewed her lip, glanced around, then leaned forward. I found something. Of course she did. Where? She hesitated again. Then, barely above a whisper, the storage unit. The one we used when we moved in together. My stomach twisted. That place had been locked up for years. If Tyler had stashed something there, Jessica had known about it for a long time. And she hadn't said a damn thing. I stood up, throwing some bills on the table. We're going there. Now. Jessica's hands trembled as she grabbed her purse. I didn't care. I was done playing games. By the time we pulled up to the storage facility, my nerves were shot. The place was nearly empty, just rows of metal doors and flickering fluorescent lights. Jessica fumbled with the key. Move, I snapped, yanking it from her hands. I unlocked the unit and lifted the door. And there it was. A duffel bag, shoved into the back corner, covered in dust. Jessica let out a shaky breath. I told you I didn't have it. I grabbed the bag and unzipped it. Stacks of cash. More than I had ever seen in my life. And then, the sound of a car pulling up. Jessica's face went pale. I turned my head slowly. Headlights beamed through the metal slats of the storage unit. Doors slammed. Footsteps. And a low, familiar voice. Well, well. Looks like you found my money. Darren Cole. And he wasn't alone. I barely had time to react before the footsteps closed in. Jessica let out a tiny, shaky breath, her whole body frozen. I shoved the duffel behind me, standing between her and the entrance like that would do anything against them. Darren Cole stepped into the dim light. Tall, broad, a presence that felt like it could crush the air from the room. Two guys flanked him, one with a scar running down his cheek, the other built like a bulldozer. Ethan Parker, Darren said, like we were old friends catching up. I was hoping I wouldn't have to pay you a visit. I stayed still, keeping my breathing even. Didn't think we had anything to discuss. His eyes flicked to Jessica, then the open duffel. Looks like we do. Scarface stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. See, we've been very patient. Jessica whimpered behind me. I ignored her. You have your money. Take it and leave. Darren clicked his tongue. Not that simple, friend. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. See, I don't like people who waste my time. I don't like chasing ghosts. And most of all, his smile dropped. I don't like liars. Jessica stiffened. I could feel her panic. I didn't give them the satisfaction of looking afraid. The money's right there. We're done. Darren's eyes stayed locked on mine. If it was just about the money, sure. He shifted his gaze to Jessica. But your ex-wife? She made this personal. Jessica sucked in a breath. I didn't. Darren lifted a finger, silencing her. You knew where this was the whole time, he said. You played dumb. You made us look for you. That's time and effort I don't get back. Jessica clung to my arm like I was some kind of shield. Please, she whispered. I didn't mean. Scarface pulled a gun. I stiffened, but Darren just smirked. Relax, Ethan. We're reasonable men. But someone has to pay for the trouble. Jessica started shaking. No, please, I can fix this. I wasn't sure what made me do it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was years of pent-up rage, of watching her ruin everything she touched. Or maybe I just wanted to see the look on her face when she realized she was on her own. I stepped aside. Jessica nearly fell over. What, Ethan? Darren raised an eyebrow. Huh. Scarface tilted his head. Damn. Didn't expect that. Jessica clawed at my sleeve. Ethan, please. I didn't move. Didn't blink. You made this mess. Clean it up. Her breath hitched, tears spilling down her face. You can't do this to me. I turned to Darren. She's the one who lied. The one who hid your money. You do what you need to do. Jessica screamed. I walked away. I don't know what happened after that. I didn't look back. I didn't care. I got in my car, hands steady, heart like ice. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. Smart move. We're done here. And that was it. Jessica was gone. I didn't hear from her again. Weeks passed. I slept better. I worked more. I finally moved on. Then, one night, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find a woman. Young, blonde, tired eyes. A little girl clung to her leg, no older than 5. She handed me an envelope. Jessica told me to give you this, she whispered. I stared at her. My chest felt tight. She's alive? The woman just nodded. Then she turned and walked away. I looked down at the envelope. I didn't want to open it. But I did. Inside was a letter. Ethan. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know, I never meant to hurt you the way I did. And I never meant for things to end like this. I'm gone now. For good. I don't have anywhere to go, but maybe that's fair. Maybe I was always meant to be alone. The girl you saw just now? That's Tyler's kid. Her mother helped me when no one else would. I owed her, so I told her where to find you. I don't know why I wrote this. Maybe because, for all the horrible things I did, you were the only real thing I ever had. And I threw it away. I hope you find happiness. Jessica. I read it twice. Then I burned it. And I never looked back. Months passed. Life went back to something close to normal. I worked, I slept, I even started dating again. Jessica became nothing but a ghost, one I barely thought about. Until the day she came crawling back. I had just gotten home from work, tossing my keys on the counter, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. A bad feeling curled in my gut. I opened the door. And there she was. Jessica. Barefoot, filthy, her hair tangled, clothes torn. Her face was streaked with dried tears, and her eyes, God, her eyes, were hollow. Empty. And clinging to her legs, 2 small kids. I just stared. Ethan, she croaked. Please. I didn't say a word. Didn't move. I just let the silence stretch between us. She dropped to her knees. Right there, on my porch. I have nowhere else to go, she whispered. I looked down at her. The once proud, once manipulative, lying, scheming woman now reduced to this. I should have felt something. Pity, anger, satisfaction. Anything. Instead, I just felt nothing. One of the kids started to cry. Jessica flinched. "Please, Ethan," she begged. Just let us in for the night. Just one night." I crossed my arms. "Who's the father?" Her lips trembled. "You are." I laughed. A sharp, cold sound. "Try again." Tears spilled down her face. "Ethan, I swear, I don't lie to me." She shrank back. "It's Tyler's," she admitted. "Both of them." I nodded. "And where is he?" She didn't answer. I already knew. "Dead." I exhaled slowly, running a hand down my face. "Let me get this straight. You left me. You cheated on me. Lied to me. Made me clean up your mess. Then disappeared for months. And now, because your boyfriend's dead, you come crawling back." Jessica bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. The kids looked up at her, confused, scared. I could see it in their eyes. They didn't understand what was happening. Didn't understand why their mother was crying, why this strange man was standing over her like a judge passing sentence. They were innocent. She wasn't. I let out a breath. "No." Jessica blinked. What?" I stepped back. "No. You don't get to do this again. You don't get to use me." Her whole body trembled. "Ethan, please. They're just kids. They need a roof over their heads, food. Not my problem." She let out a choked sob. I waited for her to pull one of her old tricks. The manipulation. The crocodile tears. The lies. But she didn't. She just knelt there. Broken. Defeated. I stared down at her for a long moment. Then I shut the door. I locked it. I stood there, heart hammering, listening. For a minute, nothing. Then, soft sniffles. Muffled cries. The shuffling of footsteps. And then silence. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. An hour. When I finally looked out the window, she was gone. The porch was empty. I should have felt something. Regret, maybe. Or guilt. But all I felt was relief. Jessica was out of my life. For good. Or so I thought. 3 days later, I got a call. Unknown number. I picked up. A low, gravelly voice spoke on the other end. "You made a mistake." I frowned. "Who is this?" The call disconnected. And just like that, I knew, Jessica had one last mess left for me to clean up. I stood there, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. The dial tone hummed in my ear, a cold reminder that whoever had just called wasn't playing games. I made a mistake. The words echoed in my head, clawing their way into my gut. I should have slammed the door in Jessica's face and forgotten her. Instead, I let her back into my life, even if only for a moment. And now, whoever was on the other end of that call knew my name. I needed to find out what the hell was going on. My first stop was Mike. Mike took one look at me when I walked into his garage and sighed. What did she do now? I dropped into the chair across from him. I got a call. His eyebrows lifted. From? No idea. Some guy with a voice like gravel. Said I made a mistake. Mike leaned back, cracking his knuckles. And you think this is about Jessica? I nodded. He let out a low whistle. Man, you really can't catch a break, huh? Apparently not. He exhaled, rubbing his jaw. Look, Ethan. You want my advice? Always. Walk away. Whatever this is, it's not your problem. I tapped my fingers against the table. What if it becomes my problem? Mike was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, then we find out who the hell just made that call. We started digging. It didn't take long to put the pieces together. Jessica had burned more bridges than I thought. Darren Cole might have been the worst, but he wasn't the only one she owed. Turns out, after Tyler died, she went running to another guy. Some lowlife named Vincent Ward. Small-time criminal, big-time temper. And the worst part? She used my name to get in good with him. I slammed my hand on the table. Are you kidding me? Mike shook his head. Nope. Told him you were family. That you could be trusted. I nearly laughed. The sheer audacity of it. So, what now? I asked. Mike scratched his beard. Now? We find him before he finds you. Easier said than done. Vincent wasn't exactly the kind of guy you could just Google. He ran underground poker games, dealt in stolen goods, and had a nasty habit of making people disappear when they pissed him off. And Jessica? She definitely pissed him off. A week passed. Then another. No more calls. No sign of Jessica. Maybe, just maybe, she'd actually disappeared for good this time. And then, one night, someone broke into my house. I woke up to the sound of shattering glass. My heart slammed against my ribs. I reached for the bat under my bed, moving slow, listening. Footsteps, creaking down the hallway. I slipped out of bed, gripping the bat tight. A shadow passed my bedroom door. I swung. The bat connected with something solid, a shoulder, a ribcage. I didn't care, and the guy grunted, stumbling back. I didn't wait. I swung again, aiming for his face. But this time, he was ready. A hand shot out, catching the bat mid-swing. A fist crashed into my stomach, knocking the air from my lungs. I hit the floor hard, gasping. Lights flicked on. And there he was. Vincent Ward. Tall, wiry, tattoos creeping up his neck. He looked down at me with a grin that sent ice through my veins. "You're a real pain in the ass, you know that," he said. I pushed myself up, coughing. "Could say the same about you." Vincent laughed. "Gotta admit, you got balls." I wiped blood from my lip. "I'll take that as a compliment." He crouched beside me. "Here's the thing, Ethan. Your ex-wife? She owes me a lot of money." I exhaled sharply. "Of course she does. And since she decided to vanish, guess who's paying up?" I met his eyes. "Not my problem." Vincent clicked his tongue. "See, that's where you're wrong." He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. It was a picture. Jessica. Tied to a chair. Bruised. Bloody. My stomach twisted. Vincent smirked. "Now, I don't care much what happens to her. But you? You're interesting. So, let's make a deal." I swallowed hard. "What kind of deal?" Vincent leaned in. "You find her. You bring her back to me. And maybe, just maybe, I don't put a bullet in your head." I clenched my jaw. I could walk away. Let her rot. She deserved it. But if I didn't? Vincent would keep coming. He'd never stop. I let out a slow breath. "Fine." Vincent grinned. "Atta boy." Then he stood up, stretched, and walked out the door like he hadn't just threatened my life. I sat there, staring at the picture of Jessica, my blood pounding. I was going to find her. But not to save her. I was going to end this. I had 48 hours. Vincent made that crystal clear before he walked out of my house like he owned the place. If I didn't bring Jessica back, I was dead. Simple as that. And the worst part? I wasn't even mad about it. Not really. I was tired. Tired of being dragged into her mess, tired of the lies, tired of the endless cycle of destruction that followed Jessica wherever she went. But if I didn't handle this, it wouldn't just be me paying the price. Mike called me the next morning. Got a lead. I rubbed my face, exhaustion pressing down on me. Tell me. Bus station security caught a woman matching Jessica's description 2 days ago. She was alone. That was weird. What about the kids? Mike hesitated. She didn't have them. I felt my stomach drop. Where'd she go? I asked, already dreading the answer. Mike sighed. Somewhere you're not gonna like. 30 minutes later, I was in my car, speeding down the highway. Jessica was at Tyler's old place. I should have known. It was a rundown motel outside the city, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. I parked out front, scanning the lot. No sign of Vincent's guys. That was good. I knocked on the door to room 108. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Jessica. Still nothing. I sighed and tried the handle. It turned. The second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The air was stale, thick with the scent of cheap perfume and cigarettes. The room was trashed, drawers pulled open, clothes scattered. And then I saw her. Curled up in the corner. Eyes red, face hollow. A bottle of something cheap clutched in one hand. She blinked up at me, sluggish. Ethan? I shut the door behind me. Where are the kids? She flinched. Looked away. Jessica. Tears welled in her eyes. I left them. I just stared at her. You what? Her voice cracked. I left them with a woman I know, one of Tyler's old friends. I couldn't take care of them, Ethan. I couldn't do it. My hands curled into fists. You abandoned your kids? Jessica let out a broken sob. I didn't have a choice. I exhaled sharply, trying to keep my anger in check. Vincent has people looking for you. She stiffened. How? I cut her off. Because of course he does. Because you owe him money. Jessica started shaking. I thought if I ran. You thought wrong. She buried her face in her hands. I don't know what to do. I watched her, the woman I once loved, reduced to nothing but a mess of regret and self-destruction. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel anything for her. No sympathy. No anger. Just nothing. I crouched in front of her. You have two options. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. You go to Vincent yourself. Beg for mercy. Maybe he lets you live. Jessica swallowed hard. Or, I said, my voice calm, steady, final, I walk away, and you never see me again. Silence stretched between us. Then, finally, she whispered, you'd really leave me here? I nodded. Without hesitation. Her breath hitched. And then, something inside her broke. I saw it. The moment she realized I was done. That I wasn't her safety net anymore. Jessica wiped her face. Nodded. Take me to him. I didn't feel relief. I just stood up. And drove her straight to Vincent. Vincent was waiting in an abandoned warehouse on the east side of town. He was leaning against a rusted-out car when we arrived, smoking a cigarette like he didn't have a care in the world. Jessica clung to my arm, trembling. Ethan, please. I pried her off me. This is between you and him. Vincent grinned. Look at that. You actually came through. I nodded once. We're done here. Vincent eyed me, amused. You sure? Could be fun to watch. Jessica collapsed at his feet. Vincent, please, I'll get the money, I just need time. Vincent sighed, flicking his cigarette away. Time's up, sweetheart. I turned to leave. Ethan. Jessica screamed. I didn't stop. Didn't look back. I walked out of that warehouse and left her to deal with the consequences of her own damn choices. I got in my car. Drove home. I slept like a baby. A week later, I heard the news. Jessica was gone. No one knew where. Some said Vincent had dealt with her. Others thought she skipped town. I didn't care. What mattered was that, for the first time in years, I was free. No more lies. No more betrayal. No more Jessica. I sat on my porch that night, looking up at the stars. And for the first time in a long time, I actually smiled.